Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Profit Concierge. Wow, snack and learn. And today I have an awesome woman that you'll learn I'm very aligned with, named Daniela Chase, who is a relatively new member of our group, providing what I think is an astoundingly, amazingly good service for people. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But be sure that if you have money mindset issues, and for me, one of the things that we created here was a judgment-free zone. And if you've heard me talk at all, you know that I talk very much about the fact that every single entrepreneur, from the one who is just starting to the one who you see as awesomely successful, has a money story somewhere, thinks that they've done the most embarrassing thing that could possibly be done financially. And every single one of them is wrong. They haven't done the most embarrassing thing. So I want you to hang on because we're going to talk about this in a couple of different dimensions. But first, I want to introduce Daniela, who has a really fascinating background and got to her work through quite an avenue, Daniela. So she first turned to self-employment after that economic downturn we all remember of 2008. When she was downsized from her government contract about mid-2009. And that happened to a lot of people who entered the entrepreneur space. And so she dabbled a little bit in doing virtual assistant work, social media management, finally decided to return to school about 4 years later to study business and concentrated in, wait for it, accounting. But even then, with accounting, and here's where I think we align, Daniela, you recognize that entrepreneurship was really fast becoming the economy of the future, which certainly has blown up even more so in 2020. But even at the time, once we got into the heavy teens of the 2000s, it was already happening. Then a series of totally unexpected turns, personal and professional, led her to where she is now, which is the coaching space, where she's focused on something really, really important that's helping entrepreneurs move from simple startup to effortless entrepreneurship. And I love that concept because it's effortless amongst a few of the things that really can and should be effortless for an entrepreneur. Certainly everything is not. It is wonderful when we're in full alignment and we're feeling all the energy and we've got the power and we're like walking on that express sidewalk at the airports. So for every step you take, you get jaunted forward 5 steps. But even in that, even as much as you might be aligned with the universe or God or spirit or whatever it is that you align with, however you talk about it, there are still times we have to put effort into things. And one of the places where people really think that there's a lot of effort is in finance, accounting, and bookkeeping. So what you said to me when we started out, I want to talk about a bunch of things with you, but you really focus on entrepreneurs who are just coming out of the gate and they're bootstrapping it a bit. And it's teaching them what they need to know about bookkeeping so that they don't run into troubles later on. And they start to get an understanding of how important that piece of their business is. But here's the key. You add a dynamic to this that nobody else does. And I love it. And the way you put it to me was you said, hey, bookkeeping, whether we like it or not, when people start to do it and those finances get organized, it's going to bring up that money stuff and they're going to have issues. And this is where you put the special sauce on it. And I'd love for you to talk about that and what kind of differentiates you from anybody else who might be teaching just the ABCs of bookkeeping.
I think, thank you, first of all. Thank
No,
you
welcome.
for having me here. I'm just so excited to be here. I think what sets me apart from all of the other people who are out there teaching bookkeeping basics and bookkeeping boot camps is that having moved through the entrepreneurial journey myself and having failed forward multiple times, and having spent the time learning that what I don't know is even more important than what I do know, and having through life circumstances, and where I was at, having discovered the coaching space and being so impacted by the tools that were shared with me, that I now share them with others. It's recognizing that we may know that we're struggling. We may think we know why. We often know why on a surface level. We don't understand what's at the root of the problem. So I spent much of 2020 just sort of sitting back and feeling into the expanse of the energy that was feeling so different and so open. It felt to me for much of the year like all bets were off. All bets were off, and every possibility was available to us. And
I love that juxtaposition. All bets were off, and not there was no hope. All bets were off, and all sorts of new opportunities were open to us.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And recognizing that, I then moved into a period of, okay, I know what I've been planning on doing. And I know what plans I came into 2020 with, and how the world we were now living in kind of put a wrinkle in those plans. And like so many other people, I was looking at, how do I pivot? Well, what is it that I can bring to the world? How can I best serve? Because like so many in the coaching space, I'm hardwired for service. Mm-hmm. I believe that we all have our gifts, and we all are here to share what wisdom we've gathered along the way when we're doing our own inner work, so that we can all rise together.
I love that.
And in the context of the bookkeeping and entrepreneurship, though, knowing that it is essential to know your numbers if your business is going to succeed. And the vast majority of us who have not ventured into entrepreneurship before, we know how to manage our credit, and sometimes we overextend and then we play catch up, but we don't really, most of us don't really know how to proactively manage our money. And in business, that's vital because of something called cash flow, right? And you can be out of business before you ever take off if your cash flow dries up and you can't pay the bills that you need to be able to pay to keep going.
Yep.
So when we approach business, we can't approach it with the same mindset, with the same lack of intention, lack of attention that we often manage our personal finances with. And when we recognize that, when we start paying attention to the money, we're confronted with a number of things. A, we don't have the skills. Most of us weren't taught. Unless we specifically study bookkeeping, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. So you cover that base. You teach those basic skills in plain English so people can understand what they're getting.
Yes.
Yep.
And when paying that kind of attention and putting that much intention into managing and minding your money story is going to show up with a vengeance. And that is where my unique abilities as a coach allow me to bridge that gap, to work with you to figure out what it is about money that has us steeped in so much guilt, regret, and shame.
And I want to touch on that for a minute, because that's such a big part of my message, and it's where I think you and I overlap really, really well. And I just want to tell a little story that I did the same thing. So I was working with entrepreneurs. I've been doing it since 2016, and I'm getting their books in shape, and I'm working on them with things. And I finally realized at some point, I might as well just do my own books. Well, the minute I did that, different things started happening in my business that limited how far and how fast I was able to go. And it's almost like the money, getting visibility into that money is going, it magnifies, or it puts a spotlight on whatever that story is. But I will also tell you that having done that, and then having seen the story in the numbers, you're able to break through it. So one of the things I love is if you have an example you could give us of somebody you worked with, nameless, of course, and said, and you saw that happen, like, oh my God, I know my numbers. And like me went, I all of a sudden botched all my sales calls, killed my funnel, worked great with the clients I already had, but there was just going to be no growth.
Yes.
And I worked through that various ways, but I'd love it if you could give folks like 1 or 2 tips to get their hands around what that self-limiting thing might be and how to pass through it.
I think I have 2 answers here. First of all, I want to touch on what you said about handing off the bookkeeping, because when you took it on yourself, that's when you ran into your money stuff. Mm-hmm. There's an interesting duality to my approach to all of this, in that I really do agree that we need to be handing that aspect of our business off to someone as soon as possible. However, and here's the thing, mm-hmm. When we hand it off, we need to know that we have done enough of the foundational work that we can sit down and have intelligent conversations with our bookkeeper, with our accountant, with our financial advisors, because we can hand the work off, but if we don't understand what they're telling us, if we can't read the financial statements and understand what the significance of those numbers is so that we can make strategic business decisions, mm-hmm. and know when is the best time to scale and how do we go about it and what pieces need to be in place, we need to spend some time doing the work in the weeds. We need to spend some time in the weeds. And as our stuff shows up, and stuff can sound like, I don't know what I'm doing. My finances are a wreck. Here's the big one. If people knew how bad this was.
Everybody says it.
Every
entrepreneur.
Who trusts somebody whose finances look like this?
Mm-hmm. Every entrepreneur I've worked with has said that I've talked to at any speech, at anything. They called me Hallway Pam when I was out on stages doing speeches, because you tell the story and you acknowledge that everybody in the world's got this shame. Mm-hmm. And yet still nobody kind of comes to the breakout group. They'll find you over by a table and say, but mine's different. Mine's the worst story. And what we're here to tell you is, no, it's not. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. None of us were taught in school how to deal with these things. And on top of that, we inherited all of our parents' stuff about money. So you kind of come out of the gate with this, with 2 strikes against you. And then you put the 3rd strike against you by saying, I'm ashamed. Yeah. And boom, you're out of the game before you even get a chance to have your business take off. Yeah. So that is just beautiful. So I'm circling back, I know, but I get so excited about this because it's so important. What is something we can do to work on that stuff?
Absolutely. Find someone that you can work with. Now, my personal preference, because of speed and efficacy and ease and the level of support and the ability to unpack stuff without re-traumatizing myself, for me, it's coaching all the way. I've done traditional talk therapy, and I know that there are places where it can be very effective, but in the context of moving yourself forward at a pace that is necessary in order to keep up with the growth of your business and sustain and keep breathing more life into that. Mm-hmm. There is nothing like working with a personal development coach or a business coach
who can help you manage
it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So real quick, just because this question popped up, a friend of mine who owns a bookkeeping business has said, even if this is your business, bookkeeping, and I think she might be asking, should I not have a story? I mean, if I'm a bookkeeper, I shouldn't have a money story. And I disagree with that. As a CFO, I have a money story. As a controller, I had a money story. As a bookkeeper, I had a money story. We've all got them. And, I think one of the things, maybe the other thing Karen's asking is, if you're a bookkeeper, should you do your own books?
I would say no. I think you can, obviously, but I think any responsible business owner understands the value of having an advisory board, your own little It doesn't matter how small your business is, having an advisory board, mentors, people that you can learn from who will help you grow, building a team of people who will consult with you and share with you a perspective that maybe you can't see from where you are.
Love that. Just perspective all the way.
Yeah.
One of the things we've certainly learned recently is that real truth has about 90 different perspectives that tell the story 90 different ways. And that having that sometimes can open your eyes to a whole different way of viewing things.
Definitely.
So, one of the things like that's really cool about what you do is you're getting people right out of the gate. So to the extent that any of you that are watching this or that you might share it with are just starting out, like you're one of those people who goes, oh, I don't have it together enough yet to start thinking about this. What I would argue, and I'm interested, Danielle, in what you would say is, this is a great thing to start doing now. So
This
why
is the best
might
time.
that be?
This is the best time. It's so much easier to avoid problems than it is to clean them up when they've already arrived. One of the biggest mistakes that when I first entered into entrepreneurship, I knew I was smart. I knew I was articulate. I knew I was talented. I knew I was determined. I knew that I could work tirelessly. I knew that I had all of the things that it takes to really shine in the entrepreneurial world, and not the least of which is I'm a great team player, but I'm really hard to manage.
I like that.
So entrepreneurship was great for me, but I was also coming into it with this two things. I can do it all, and I can't. And also I think I was also running I have to do it all because I haven't earned the right.
Oh, I like that.
To reach out and ask for the help that I don't even want to admit that I need. And that was a really huge lesson for me. That was probably my first biggest lesson in failing forward, recognizing that we all need help. We don't know what we don't know. And if we're working in isolation, which is happening so much right now with COVID, it's so easy to fall into this space where we're operating with these blinders on, and like the truck's just over here, but we can't see it coming.
I love that.
Because we're not looking. We need to be engaging with other people, sharing stories, bringing our learnings into a wider community, and really creating space where we can give and receive.
That's why these videos are so important to me, and why nobody recommends that I do this, but I just think it's so important just to share the stories, because people are hearing each other's stories and recognizing, we're not in this alone. We're all struggling with different stuff. And I really appreciate your coming on to do this, especially since your discipline is so close to my heart. I love that the blinders are on and you can't see the truck coming. That is so true. When you're looking at your own stuff, or you're thinking that this is something you can avoid, entrepreneurs who are going to succeed, what I say this a lot, are going to show up for what they think is the hard stuff. Once you show up for that stuff, 9 times out of 10, it is not as hard as you thought it was. Right. But the longer you avoid it, the harder it actually does become.
Yeah.
So it's this catch-22.
I kind of want to draw a parallel there too, because it works the same way when we're dealing with our personal stuff. I have talked with countless people, countless women in particular, who have said things like, I can't, whatever that thing is, I know that it's there, but I cannot deal with that right now because I have kids and I have a business and I have this and I have that. And if I let myself go there, I'm going to fall apart, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to put myself back together. And that's just not an option. So not going there. I lived in that space for a long time myself. And what I've learned since I allowed myself to do the inner work, I mean, not that we're ever done. I mean, it's an ongoing journey. But when I first started doing the deep work and I started allowing a lot of the pain that was rooted in childhood experiences, childhood traumas, when I allowed that to come to the surface, one of the things that really struck me and surprised me was that the ugly snot cries that I had been dreading. Gotta love Oprah for that phrase.
I love that.
The ugly snot cries that I had been afraid of because I thought they would put me in a place where I was completely out of control and I would not be able to regain control. When I finally let myself feel that pain, it was over in a matter of minutes. And yes, it came in there were waves and layers of it and new pieces show up, but allowing myself to just sit with my pain and feel it so that I could release it.
Wow. Turned
out to be so much less scary and so healing. Relief.
Yep.
Carrying that stuff for as long as I did, it was heavy and it was dense and it was dark. And I think we all know what that feels like, especially right now. And looking at it, instead of pushing it away from me, because, you know, it's too distasteful or it's too hard. I love Glennon Doyle. We can do hard things. Yep. Allowing myself to really look at those feelings and embrace them.
Feel them.
And embrace those pieces of myself that felt that way have brought me to a place where I don't just talk about wholeheartedness anymore. I live it because I'm no longer in rejection of the pieces of myself that hurt.
Love it. There's a huge message in there that just resonated with me, that there's a different definition of wholeheartedness in how you're using it. And we often use the term wholeheartedness, meaning, you know, this is a wholehearted offer. Like it's honest, it's good, it's well-intended. But what you're really saying is using and recognizing your own whole heart.
Yes.
In what you do, even the stuff that before you might have condemned or ignored or whatever it might be. And money's a space where all of that really bubbles up.
Definitely.
That's fantastic. As you were talking, I got this image in my head. This just tell you how my brain works. You were talking about the fear of it was so less harmful than the actual going through it. I think of it as my knee replacement, right? For 5 years, I was like, oh, I should get a knee replacement. I should get it. No, I don't want it. It's going to be hard. It's going to hurt, blah, blah. Literally the day after I got my knee replacement in the hospital and they stood me up and I started walking, the pain was less than it was when I had been walking, right after surgery was less than the day before when I'd walked into the hospital.
Yeah, it's a beautiful metaphor, choosing to live with the pain unnecessarily.
And it was a bigger pain. It was a different pain. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is surgery pain. He just cut me open, banged me with a hammer, took out an old piece, banged a new piece in, and it's less painful than how I was feeling before. So here, now I've equated it all to a knee surgery. But that's what came through when you were talking a little bit, which was really cool. So as you work with entrepreneurs on this, what do you just let these issues kind of bubble up at their own pace, or do you know kind of ahead of time, oh, here's we're going to run into something so I can pave the way so it's a little bit of a smoother landing for them?
Both invariably are going to happen. What I've done is create a community, much like you have, created a community in Facebook. And for the first 90 days of 2021, I am basically dripping out content And I have 5 themes that I cover: money mindset on Mondays, tips and terms on Tuesdays, wealth on Wednesdays, the energy of money on Thursdays, and financial statement savvy on Fridays. And they're like little micro lessons, bite-sized pieces of information around basic bookkeeping, business development, but mostly money mindset.
It all comes back to money.
Yeah, and I'm putting content out there, and I'm also doing a certain amount of pre-framing, because I recognize the stuff's going to come up, and sometimes the stuff is so close to the surface that something I put out there is designed really to shine a light on it. It's already there for you to deal with, and now that you can see it, let's get this thing out of your way.
I love that.
Yeah.
So in that, first of all, what's the name of your group so that people know what it is? And I'll put it in the comments as well.
Fabulous. The group is Conscious Growth Mindset Community.
Conscious Growth Mindset. Great. And I will make sure that people get tagged or we drop that in there. And how can people reach you best if they want to talk to you further about what you do? So I know they can probably ping you with a direct message, but one is to join that group.
Yes.
If
and also,
go ahead.
They can also reach me by email at info@danielachase.com. Okay. And as you pointed out, it is Daniela with 1 L.
I know. You're the first person I know like that. Trish says, why does everything come back to mindset? And it's so true. Everything does in every area of our lives. Trish is a friend of mine. She was actually interviewed, the last interview that I did, and all of her movement through creating this charity, when there are bumps in the road, when there are things that make us think we should turn back, it's all mindset.
Oh, mindset is, it's become such a buzzword, but mindset is that piece of us. It's what we believe to be true about ourselves. It is the sum total of our beliefs and our self-imposed limitations that often are false and rooted in a decision we made before we even had the capacity to weigh the data that we were taking up. Mm-hmm. And being able to really explore, to lean into those things. I'm at a place in my life where I'm creating something new. I'm stepping into territory that is definitely overlapping with some of my own history of a money story.
Awesome.
And there are moments where I mean, like all of us, like earlier today, like, oh my God, what am I doing? Talking to Pam Pryor. Like, who am I?
You're doing exactly the same kind of thing I'm doing.
And what I'm learning is this. There are a ton of things I don't know. And that is perfectly okay, because what I have learned is that I can learn anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've proven out with all the different things you've done and tried and succeeded at.
Yeah. And it's this beautiful space I'm in my life right now where, I mean, I just turned 57, and I've lived this life that has taught me so much.
That's awesome.
And being able to focus on a specific issue, but also understand how the rest of life intermingles, and like life is a tapestry. You can't pull on one thread without affecting the rest of them.
Love that.
And being able to bring the sum total of what I've learned to this one specific thing, and being able to work with people and have the compassion and the non-judgment and the empathy, because, hey, I've been there, and whatever you've got to tell me, trust me, my mess was worse.
As my friend Jen Gottlieb says, your mess is your message.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So true. All right. Well, this has been absolutely delightful. I saw that a lot of people got a lot out of it. We got a couple questions that popped in, which was great. I'm going to drop your contact info in the comments, certainly the group name, maybe not the email. I'll have people DM me or DM you if they want your email so that that's not out there everywhere. Although it's your info number, so I guess maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I really look forward to continuing this conversation as we go.
Yeah.
Folks, if you have basic questions around bookkeeping, around what's holding you back from diving in and learning about it, over a specific question around it, between the two of us, we've got to have an answer for you.
Absolutely.
And I am betting, because this goes with the judgment and shame piece, there are going to be hundreds of other people in this group who might have the same question and just don't want to ask it. So feel free to do that here, either in the comments on this thread, in the group, just as a new message. We monitor it every single day. And our whole objective is to share wonderful people like Daniela and other information that can help you guys grow and thrive in your businesses and in your personal lives as well, because it's all connected, like you said, like a tapestry. So thank you so, so much for being here. We're going to sign off, folks, and wish you a fantastic Tuesday evening. Yeah, it's Tuesday. And we'll talk to you again soon. Everybody have a great night.